Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to first start this stream out by thanking everyone for your really kind comments on Fox's community post that she put up there. I didn't really know that she put one up until she pointed me over there, so that was actually kind of nice seeing everybody's comments on that. So thank you.
Surgery went well.
I guess
you were asleep the whole time.
My knee is still chock full of probably
saline,
a liter of fluid, and I'm not actually joking. When I try and move my knee, you can hear it swashing around. So
it was funny because the other night, it wasn't the night that I brought you home. Like, it wasn't the same day as surgery. It was the next night, and I had fallen asleep. And at like probably 1:30 in the morning, I just hear like Fox. I'm like, what? It's like, listen to this. Listen to my leg, and you can hear like sloshing around in the joint. And I was like, yeah, dude, they put saline in there. Like, you woke me up for this?
Doug Michael says, hold it up to the mic. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But no, it's been it's always frustrating when you're an invalid, right? So, but anyway, it's slowly getting better by the day, and wasn't gonna keep us from live streaming tonight with all of you fine folks. So there you go. But thank you very much for everyone's very, very kind messages. It was nice to read. I'll tell you that. Anyhow, Goko Donnie with 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships right off the hop. So thank you very much for that. And Avonlea chipping in with a quote. Ellis, who's been with us for 7 months. He who is unable to serve the citizens is the one who wants to dominate them. Ludwig von Mises. Thank you very much. And Transcription jumping in with $5 super chat. It's just gone half the hour and time for the penguin on top of your television set to fulminate pertly. He says, hoping to avoid the banned word list. Pretty sure you navigated the parliamentary language rules quite
expertly,
adeptly.
Yeah.
Woman hauling oversize, good to see ya. So happy you're doing well. I managed to get more of my family members to join the NP family. Excellent.
Awesome. That's
excellent news. And thank you to everybody who keeps advocating for that. This live stream, it was originally just going to be Q&A just to keep it simple, and then of course we had to go and actually add a topic. So,
but it's an interesting topic, and I feel like there's a lot of intrigue behind it. A lot of things that we were trying to figure out, but really couldn't. It's kind of hidden, and you'll see very shortly.
If I've heard a couple of comments about my voice, it's my throat still might be somewhat irritated from the tube down my throat when I was under, so just just try and bear with me as we get through that. So thank you very much for that. The Dan Freeman Show with a $2 super chat. Thanks for what you do. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And Sean with a $7 super chat. How's them painkillers feeling, Cypher? Glad you're back and doing well. This live stream is an unexpected birthday surprise for me.
Oh, happy birthday!
Happy
Yay.
birthday!
Awesome! Happy birthday, Sean.
Well, it's
He's not taking the painkillers, really. Is the truth. I had to be like, okay, you need to take this. You need to take this now. The night I brought him home from surgery, which was Thursday. And he's like, well, I don't feel any pain. I'm like, take it. Because if you don't take it, you're going to feel the pain at like 3 a.m. So take it.
Cypher does not want Fox's safe supply. That's all it comes down to. So.
And I mean, they didn't even really give you anything serious. But
no, they gave me a T3 bottle of T3. So
yeah.
Anyway, thanks for that, Sean. And JHawk73 with 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you very much for that, Jay. Very, very much appreciated. And if you're receiving a membership from anyone who's passed them out tonight, please make sure you give them a thank you, because they're very much appreciated. But yes, happy birthday, Sean. At some point, maybe I'll have a happy birthday meme but I imagine it'll get overused because of the size of our audience. So anyway, we have 631 viewers and 358 likes. Let's please get that like count up. That would be great. Please take your shoes off, ring the doorbell, put your feet up.
And before we get into the meat and potatoes of it, we'll go over the rules of the live stream, which are the same three as always. Please respect each other and the platform. No selling, soliciting, or spamming in the chat. And please do not use profanity. We try to keep it parliamentary in the chat.
Absolutely. Fox has to be the bad parent and make the kid take his medicine.
I do, because you don't do it on your own.
Hey, I'm taking the Advil, but I was right because I said I don't need the Advil because...
No, you said you don't need the T3.
Sorry, I don't need the T3. See how loopy I am? Because I was more concerned with the inflammation, and I was actually correct that T3s do not have any anti-inflammatory properties.
Well, okay, listen to this. Elkie KB says she picked up T3s for my husband's surgery. They included a naloxone kit with it. Are you serious?
What?
Oh my goodness. Well, I noticed when I did...
Because all that fentanyl in T3.
Don't take the whole bottle at once.
All that fentanyl in T3s. Jeez.
Well, I noticed when I picked up the bottle, the pharmacist was like, "Well, you can bring back the unused portion. If there is an unused portion, you can bring it back and we'll destroy it." Which, I mean, I kind of knew from working in an adjacent field, veterinary, but it was just odd because it was the first time a pharmacist has ever told me that. No, it's not like we're picking up codeine products every day, but. Like it was just a weird thing to me that they felt the need to say that.
Anyhow, let's see. We have a member comment from Daniel T. Been around for 5 months. Thank you very much. Glad to hear you're doing well, Cypher. We won't ask you to do champagne until you're much better.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, probably at least a week, maybe 2.
And DanDeman966 with a $5 super chat. Cypher Man, I hope you're having a speedy recovery. You're already faster than CF Montreal trying to get 5 more goals against Toronto FC. 5-1. I love Northern Perspective. Oh, man. And for all you Edmonton Oilers fans, looks like McDavid really came through for you guys the other night. So forcing a Game 7 between Vancouver and Edmonton. So that should be an interesting one to see which Canadian team is going to be the last one standing in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And Diane Sylvain with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much. So happy you are back, Cypher. Prayers for your continued recovery. Quote, the liberties of a people never were nor ever will. The liberties of a people never were nor ever will secure when the transactions of their rulers may be concealed from them. Patrick Henry. That's a good quote.
That's awesome. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you very, very much. And Kevy Nova for a Kevy Nova 123 with a $10 super chat. Hello from Fredericton. Keep up the great journalism. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm glad to hear what you think our product is. Resembles journalism, so it means a lot when we get those types of comments. So thank you very much. We just do our best, try and give you the facts and give our opinion, and hope that's enough. Okay, we're up to 767 with 471 likes. Let's keep it up, folks. Now, in the meantime, we have heard a lot from Champagne and Trudeau and the rest of them about this grocery code of conduct. And they've, all of a sudden we started to hear that, Loblaws has agreed to it as long as all of their competitors are going to be agreeing to it.
Before we get too deep into the grocery stuff, we are going to be doing a Q&A tonight, probably on the last half of the live stream. So if you do have questions, just make sure you tag Barnaby. You can start tagging him now if you've got something on your mind. And we'll get to as many as we can on the second half of the show. Yeah,
please feel free to start that process. That way we can just jump in. And we will be starting the questions from the order at which Barnaby gives them to us. So if you get in early, then you may get answered first. Okay, so we were kind of interested to understand what is the grocery code of conduct, where is it,
where'd it come from,
and what is it even doing? So here's the website for the grocery code of conduct. Now, it's a little strange because it's canadacode.org. And it's just, it's very weird. Let me bring this down so everybody can actually see this. So you can see at the top where it says canadacode.org. That's the grocery site, if you will. Now, we didn't really even believe that this was even real, because when you click on code documents, it takes you here, and then you say, oh, this is the grocery sector code of conduct, and then you click here, and this looks like this was produced out of like a university class project.
Yeah, it looks like even a high schooler did it in like Word. The first place I found this, it was this document, Grocery Sector Code of Conduct, and I found it on Reddit. Somebody had linked to it directly. And I went to it, and I was looking at the document, and it said there's no Government of Canada branding on it. There's no, like, Government of Canada anything.
No, there's nothing here.
Is this even real? What is this?
It's like literally who does up such a quote unquote important document, and this is what you get on the title page. It's just bizarre. So we went back, and then we looked at some of the other results that we were looking up, and there was a Globe and Mail article that we found that linked back to this site. So we're like, okay, I guess this is it. So we started looking through it.
But this is the official code of conduct. This is what it looks like.
Yeah, so thank you, Sally, Jason, Jim, and Bob on your class project, which produced the Canada Grocery Sector Code of Conduct. So this is where it starts, the objectives. So the objectives of the code are to contribute to a thriving and competitive grocery industry, delivering the vital goods upon which Canadians in every community depend, recognizing the needs of all stakeholders in the grocery value chain, including the unique realities facing small and medium enterprises, the realities of the Canadian marketplace, and the importance of ESG principles, to promote reciprocal trust and collaboration amongst grocery value chain partners based on clear standards of fair dealing. 3, allow all parties governed by the code to make informed business decisions in a context of commercial certainty governed by clear agreements. And 4, provide for an effective, equitable mechanism for resolving commercial disputes. So the very interesting thing that is clearly missing from the objectives is the Canadian consumer. The Canadian consumer is nowhere to be found in the objectives, right? Because if the whole point of this is to stabilize prices, as Champagne constantly says, and to have a long-term goal of reducing grocery prices, wouldn't that need to be in the objectives if that is clearly one of your underlying objectives for this whole endeavor? I would think so, but it's not here. So clearly this hasn't been submitted to Professor Champagne for proofreading or final marking. So, that's the first part. Before we get any further, just saw one. Come on, let's go, computer.
Thank you to Ravi Sadies with a $5 super chat. It says, it sounds like Cypher isn't on the good drugs. He is way too coherent. He's been so stubborn with the pain medication. I've had to be like, okay, it's time to take it. I don't feel like taking it. I'm not in pain. You're not in pain now, but you will be if you don't take it. So take it.
It's like Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and she's Nurse Ratched. So
Yeah, I've been like his dealer.
Kinda, if your dealer forces it on you. Gokodani with a $2 super chat. Holy Narc 101. Wow. And Just Me Nicole chipping in with 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you very much. And Rick Robitaille with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Rick. And we're still about 300 likes behind, folks, so if we can get that up, that would be great. But back to the code of conduct. So, I looked through the principles, I looked through, all of this. So all of this seems to be focused on the relationship between the suppliers of the grocery chains, and they're even talking about it cascading down to even the farmers at one point. But none of this talks about the actual consumer. So there's some very bizarre bizarre things in here. So here's the provisions. Parties to the code, and if you're getting a little twinge on the back of your neck and you're starting to think Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean, you're not alone, because every time I was reading the code, that's what was coming into my head. And then the next part that came into my head was, well, it's more like guidelines, really. So, and that's really what this is. This is literally the Pirates Code, because there's nothing that punishes you for not following the code. So it's a little bizarre in that respect. Janet Gage with a $5 super chat. Thank you very much for that. And Doo-Doo with a $5 super chat. I would say Fox took on the mother role with Cypher's painkillers like a kid not wanting to take his vitamins. And
Fox took on the concerned spouse role because, like, again, my background is veterinary medicine, for those of you who don't know. And a lot of the things that I learned in veterinary medicine, it applies equally to human medicine. So one of the most important things that we were taught, especially when it comes to surgeries, is just give them the pain medication even if they don't appear that they're in pain, because pain is easier to prevent than it is to try to treat. So I've been trying to impress that upon Cypher, but I mean, he's an adult. He can make his own decisions.
Jarsha knows what's going on. Right on, Cypher. Better to bear the pain now than the liver damage later. There you go. See? Us stubborn dudes, we know what's going on here. And we have Jerry Savoy with $20 super chat, my man. He worked for Sobeys for 12 years before joining the telecom industry. Grocery stores only made $1 to $3 per bag on groceries. Most profit is on the cleaning supply and cosmetic and pharmacy. That's where the most profit is, and that's exactly what we found as well.
It's still like that today. We had done a video back in the fall, was it? Maybe even in the summer, about Loblaws, and their profit margins are still only anywhere between 4 and 6%, which as a business, that's not huge. Like, those are razor thin margins.
Right. And the reason why they make a lot of money is because they deal in volume, right? So if you have, a whole bunch of customers coming in and you're making 4 to 6% on every bag of groceries, that's fine. But again, this is why they are, they have brought in pharmaceuticals and they brought in cosmetics and all of this stuff into the grocery stores.
Well, yeah, they bring those in as a convenience, right? Because, I'm out shopping for groceries. I have to go for groceries every week. Oh, maybe I need a tube of mascara. Oh, look, there it is. Well, you know what? It's $2 more expensive than the drugstore, but I only go to the drugstore maybe once a month, so I'm going to grab it anyways.
Well, and think about the layout of the grocery stores, right? You don't have all of the food and then the pharmaceuticals and the wellness products. You have usually you have the fruits and vegetables and the deli, and then you have the pharmaceuticals, and then you have the rest of the grocery store. But the way it's laid out, usually you have to pass by the cosmetics and the pharmaceuticals to get to the rest of the groceries. That's to entice the customers to go down the aisles, because they're also counting on some of the old school shoppers that go up and down every aisle in the grocery store. And then, they have their list, but sometimes they will impulse buy as they're going down. So they're actually counting on those shoppers as they're going through the store. So that way, as they're going down the cosmetic aisles, just through force of habit, they're going to pick up some of those high profit items before they continue on. So, in a lot of the grocery stores, that's how they're laid out. Anyhow, before we get any further, Osiris Gaming with a member comment. My special containment procedures, incident reports, and department documents for my roleplay game look more professional than this.
I bet.
And White Hill Projects member comment for 3 months. It's easy to make a profit when they get rid of employees in favor of self-checkout. Employees cost way more money to maintain. Yes, they do. Yes, they do, because they have to pay for their benefits as well. Lost Labradorian joining as a NP supporter. Thank you very much for that. Revisays with a $10 super chat, and then inflation. So 2%, 4% of higher prices because, say, carbon taxes means that they're making more money. even though said money still doesn't buy as much as it used to. Well, and that's the thing, right? So inflation will go up, quote unquote, profit will go up, but the profit, as you say, because of inflation, $100 million of profit today is not what $100 million of profit was 5 years ago. It's completely different.
But here's the thing that I think everybody seems to forget is that we've got like over 1 million new Canadians in this country in the past year alone. Those people need to eat. So of course the grocery store profits are going to go up. There's more people to service.
Right. So, this isn't a surprise. Carolyn Grunland with a member comment for 5 months. I've had knee surgery. Cypher, feel your pain. Fox, keep on them.
I will.
Anyhow, so let's keep going. And thank you very much, Goko Donnie, with another 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you very much. So let's look at some of the provisions. Parties to the code have an obligation to negotiate with one another in good faith and conduct business in the spirit of fair and ethical dealing. This is where we kind of get into the kindergarten code of conduct. If 2 or more parties wish to enter into a supply agreement, all parties have an obligation to negotiate and conclude agreements by mutual consent. Parties to the code may not alter contracts unilaterally. Now, you get the sense in some of these that I'm guessing what was happening or is happening in some cases is that when Loblaws or Walmart or Costco or Metro or any of these big boys are dealing with these very small suppliers, that they are saying, well, if you don't fulfill our supply arrangement, or if you don't do what we ask, we're just going to terminate and go to somebody else. Maybe that's happening. It wouldn't surprise me, because it's not like Metro and Loblaws and Costco and the rest of these guys are, angels in the grocery store. They're capitalists. They're capitalist organizations.
They're businesses.
So, and in virtually all business, there's going to be some issues where people are not acting with parliamentary decorum, as it relates to fairness when it comes to agreement. So it wouldn't surprise me. But again, it goes back to this code is not mandating that people do this, right? The language of this is not as such. Let's skip down to commercial agreements. The code strongly recommends written agreements. Like, are you kidding me? Hey guys, it'd be a good idea if you wrote this down.
You mean we can't just do it on a napkin and a handshake?
Like,
oh no, a napkin would be writing it down, wouldn't it?
And then I'm going to skip the whole paragraph, because the only thing you really need to read is the first couple of words. The code strongly recommends written agreements. And then at the end, where it says, parties engaging in complex or nuanced trading agreements without defining the terms in writing do so at some risk.
Just some risk?
Come
Not
on.
like a lot of risk?
This is like Mr. Dress Up or Business for Dummies. That's what this is. And they're trying, like, again, they're trying to pass this off as some, new age code that is industry defining, and I don't know. It's just ridiculous that I'm a loss for words for it. Sandra Easthope with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for all your honest reporting. I am so glad to become a member, or I'm so glad I became a member. Well, thank you very much. We're glad that you did as well, and thank you very much for watching.
Thank you, Sandra.
Rabu says with a $5 super chat, it's not a surprise to anyone with a brain, but poor Jagmeet. Well,
I think it's so bizarre that he's picking on Loblaws specifically.
it never brings up Metro.
No, the NDP had something about the Loblaws boycott on their official Twitter at one point. I'm almost positive I saw it there. And it's bizarre to me that they would single one out, like, as a political party, that they would do that. Like, it seems improper to me. Right.
Never mind the fact that they were coming at Pierre and Jenny Burns, because Jenny Burns owned an organization that worked with Loblaws, not on groceries, but I think on the cosmetic side.
No, it was for marijuana.
Oh, marijuana, yeah. Meanwhile, Jagmeet's brother is actively involved in lobbying for Metro, but they don't want to say anything about that.
I don't think it's him that's actually doing the lobbying, though, to be fair. I think it's his firm, or he owns a part in the firm or something, and they're having people do the lobbying, but he's not the person
fair
doing
point.
the lobbying.
But the point is it's almost verbatim the exact same relationship that Jenny Burns has with the Conservatives.
Yes.
And no one wants to talk about that, right? So even Trudeau doesn't want to talk about that. Wendy M with a $7 super chat. I'm a registered nurse. There are no hobbies treated with less sympathy than an RN's. Take the damn painkillers.
You tell him.
Thank you,
he's
Wendy.
Not listening to me.
Thank you, Wendy. I can hear the tone and see the eye contact and the look on your face. Carolyn Grunham with a $2 super chat. The whole Liberal Party needs a code of conduct. Yeah, an enforceable one. And Dudu with a $5 super chat. Sounds like the NDP'd a show called Bill Nye the Business Guy. The NDP needs a... Okay. Yeah, I agree. Lady Loves Cats with a $10 super chat. Good to see ya. What is that? What is it that this will do?
I think we're looking for a Janice.
Yeah. We'll bring him up here.
What is it that you do?
Nothing.
Oh,
Nothing.
I love that.
Rebus says with a $5 super chat responding to Carolyn Grunland. I mean, they could, but it would look more like a set of instructions on how to launder money to the Liberal Party. There you go.
And we also have Listless Receptionist with a $2 super chat. It says, it sounds like how to sign a contract for dummies.
Right?
It really does. It was like written for third graders, I think.
Yeah. Like intro to business class. I don't know.
And we also have a $2 super chat from Gokudani. Thank you very much. It says, cheers, MP family.
Wonderful.
And thank you to Daniel T with a $6.99 super chat. It says, notice that the variety of products has diminished since stores are only carrying what sells the most.
Well, and we've seen as Pierre has called it, shrinkflation, where the contents are a little bit smaller, but the price is the same.
Yeah, like I had gone to the store. It was a Loblaws chain, full disclosure, with our son the other day, and they had pasta on sale. And I was like, here, buddy, pick some up and put them in the cart, right? And he picked one off the shelf and he handed it to me. And I was like, oh, that feels kind of light. Like maybe the bag is broken. And I look on the bag and I was like, oh, it's 750 grams now. It used to be 900 grams for the same price.
Well, the other thing that, and I don't know if this was just me, so I like Tostitos. Like they're one of my go-to snacks when I do have a snack. And to me, and this was about a year ago, and I was saying to Fox one time when I was eating them, I found that they were breaking apart a lot easier. Like they were much more fragile than I recalled. And I just remember saying that, are they even using less ingredients when they're...
They are. And again, I give our dog his medication in like half of one of those processed cheese slices. And I noticed the last package that I bought from Costco, the cheese is like really gross. I mean, he doesn't care. He's a dog, but... it's like rubbery and it gets all under my fingernails when I'm trying to roll his medication up in it, and you can tell that they've changed something.
Well, and even some of the restaurants that we used to go to, they've like just the quality of the product has gone down because they're trying to save money, right? So because of inflation and everything. So it's bizarre. Anyway, let's go back to contracts for dummies. Agreements between parties should cover all terms and conditions of their supply arrangements and take into account the contracting provisions prescribed by the code. In the case of a conflict between this code and existing provisions, they're basically saying use the existing provisions, and when when the conflict between parties isn't handled by the existing provisions, then adapt to the code. Yeah. 2.4. No party who conducts or intends to conduct business with another party shall purposely avoid or refuse entering into a commercial agreement with that other party. So basically, it's a very bizarre suggestion, because that's what all these are. They're not mandates, they're suggestions. If you are Metro and you intend to do business with Bob's Burgers, you will not avoid doing business with Bob's Burgers. That's how I read that provision. So it's kind of strange. And then they also talk, and I'm not going through this whole thing, don't worry. They also talk about if you're going to be suppliers are going to be withholding delivery of product because they don't have it, therefore they're going to be late, and penalties and things like that. And one of the complaints by the grocery stores is that they often have issues when suppliers are late with their delivery. So what the grocery stores will then do is issue them a charge or a fine, because the grocery stores, especially when you're talking about the fresh food, they will be, as much as possible looking for just-in-time delivery. And what that means is that they will get the product so it doesn't sit in their warehouse for any longer than it has to, so it can literally go from the truck right into the grocery store and put on the shelves. That way it has its maximum freshness. Now, there's going to be some cases where, fruit is picked a little, early, and that way, it can survive the trip and that sort of thing. But when you're talking about the products in Ontario and across the provinces, they ideally are sourced locally from the farms in your province and then carried into the grocery store. So that'll be a just-in-time delivery. So that way the food isn't sitting in the warehouse rotting and losing money. So so they will fine the suppliers if they actually don't get the food, because if they don't get that just-in-time delivery, then they have no food to put on the shelves. So some of the suppliers no doubt would be complaining that, well, I'm being fined for no reason, or it's not my fault, or, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what they're saying is they're suggesting that a supplier can then challenge, whether or not they should be able to pay a fee if they don't provide the delivery to the grocery store. But they don't actually say in here who they're challenging to. But we'll get into that later. So they're just saying challenge it, and then hopefully it can be resolved by the two parties. One of my, where's my favorite section in here? Where is it?
Is that the section that was not really a section?
Yeah. Oh, it's right here. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's the scope of the Grocery Code of Conduct. Grocery products includes the following items.
And that's it.
Come on.
I understand that maybe this is still a work in progress, but that seems like something they could have quite easily filled out.
So, as written, just so everyone understands, as written, the scope of this applies to nothing if you're following this to the letter. Because if there's no items in scope, then this document doesn't apply to anything. If you're really taking this literally, that's what this means. It's tell me this isn't a government document. Robert and Cafano with a $5 super chat. I'm a little loaded, but I love you guys. Thanks, Robert.
Awesome.
Happy Victoria Day. And we have a $10 super chat from Vassy. Thank you very much. Average is 3 days. Everything is set, so it sits for no longer than 3 days. After that, the food will run out. Look at the COVID times and supply chains. There you go. So that's pretty close to just-in-time delivery. Vassy with another $2 super chat. The scope is like Listerine, but different.
Amazing.
So, that's... I don't have a lot else to say. You have to inform your staff. All parties to the code shall identify and make available, when required, a representative empowered to make decisions on relevant matters for all issues pertaining to the code and its administration. This includes point of contact for informal discussion, dispute resolution, and overall communication. All parties governed by the code have a duty to inform senior staff of train commercial teams on and be aware of the code and its provisions. Alice Avonlea with a $2 super chat. Remember my quote on wisdom? Yes, I believe so. I believe so. That was the one where somebody's always chasing it and they never grab it. That would be the Liberal Party. So that's the code. Like, now usually at the end of these, you're expecting to see some sort of, version control, who signed off on this, but nothing is here.
Well, I was just surprised again that there was no Government of Canada branding on it, that it didn't identify like the person responsible for writing it, the minister, nothing. So we do not know where this code came from. There is no Government of Canada anything on their website. The website itself, I looked up on the WHOIS registration, and it was registered in May of last year in Iceland, of all places. So I'm like, who is this? Like, what do they call themselves? Canada Code of Conduct. Who are these people? If you try to search that on Google, it doesn't come up, because all that comes up is like articles about the Grocery Code of Conduct. And not the actual group itself calling themselves Canada Code of Conduct. So who are these people? Are they a government department? I don't think so. Are they contracted by the government? If they are, why are we spending our tax dollars on this? Like, there's just so many questions we don't know the answer to.
Well, I have a few answers, but I'll get to that in a minute. Nicole Copes with a $28 super chat. Thank you so much. Just wanted to say thank you for keeping us informed. I have now got most of my family listening to your channel.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much for that, Nicole. And hello to the Copes family. Dana Wick with a member count for 3 months. Hope you're feeling better after your surgery. I will plead the fifth if I was American.
Just because you're not taking your pain pills.
It's just stiff. It doesn't really...
It's different. There's still fluid in the joint.
Yeah. Goko Donnie with another 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you so much for that, Donnie. And Rob Hussein with a $5 super chat. Well, I mean, JT could have signed it, but that would mean giving him back his crayons. Yeah.
Don't give him crayons, he'll eat them.
Yeah, exactly. But let's go back. So this is the documents page. Code documents. So one thing that we need to look at is at the top here. So it looks like they've created this new organization.
Which I also could not find any information about.
And the organization is called the Office of the Grocery Sector Code of Conduct. Another acronym, because that's what we need. The OGSCC. So, you can read through all of this, but a lot of this is just how it's supposed to, how this organization is supposed to operate. And there's an interim board that makes some of these decisions. So one of the questions I had going through the actual code of conduct was, okay, so let's say there's disputes between suppliers and grocery stores. Who resolves these things? Well, this is kind of where it goes. So it says the first board president will direct the first board will direct the president and adjudicator to develop a fulsome dispute resolution process for use in respective matters governing by the code for approval by the board. The dispute resolution process will be based on the following principles. So basically what it says is the parties that are having the dispute, try and work it out yourselves, children. That's basically what it's saying. And if you can't, we'll provide you some coaching and some mediation. And then if that doesn't work, well, then we're going to actually bring in a third party, almost like an arbitrator, that will look at the dispute and then come to a decision, and then you both have to agree on this. And again, none of this is subject to law. Just want to make that clear. It's not subjected to law at this point. So nothing's forcing you to do any of this. Irish Mist, member comment for 6 months. Has anyone noticed the Mighty Ogo stickers on committee member laptops? It makes me smile.
I've only seen it on Kelly McCauley's laptop. I know Michael Barrett has his own with like a little goose on it. That one's really cool. That was not one that we had given. Ours were the black ones with like the gold scrolling that said Mighty Ogo. But yeah, those are pretty cool.
We had intended that to actually kind of just be something behind the scenes, and you know, there's no Northern Perspective branding on there or anything like that. It was just, we thought it would be something neat to do. And
yeah, because we had heard kind of through the grapevine that Mr. McCauley was admiring Mr. Barrett's sticker and was like, oh, it'd be cool to have one, right? So
yeah, so you know, we decided to make a new, you know, government style, you know, gaudy logo, and I guess it was received well. So
the only committee that matters.
Just Me Nicole with a $10 super chat. Our small town metro was changed to a tradition. Olive oil went from $14.99 lever to $30.89.
Oh my gosh.
With the change. We are a small farming community. Many people are not happy. I imagine
That's
not.
insane.
That's double, man. Holy. That's crazy. And Goko Dani with a $10 super chat. I drive a bomb for a living. I like sharing some of my insanity with all of you. Make sure you get to the members only stuff. If you got gifted, that's your homework. There you go. So we're gonna have a little bit of member content that didn't make it into last night's video, because I think I cut to about 10 or 15 minutes off of that, so you'll get some extra content from that. One of the benefits.
And for those of you wondering, if you don't have a membership, you're not missing like anything crucial with the outcuts, because we had a comment once that somebody was like, oh no, if I don't buy into the membership, then I'm missing important information. Usually it's just things that we've cut out of videos because they've run too long, and maybe we're repeating ourselves, or maybe it's something that's not really relevant to that video, so we just kind of cut it out and put it in the members content. It's just kind of like extra material. It's not necessarily like some big bombshell that you need to know.
And if it is, I'm sure our members will tell us that. So.
Yeah, maybe you guys should post this public.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so that's mainly what the code of conduct and this organization is. Now, the other interesting thing that we learned is you actually have to pay for a membership for this organization, which I guess makes sense because this organization has a president, CEO, a board, and they got to get paid by somebody, right?
Well, how much do they get paid? We don't know. How much do you have to pay to be part of this organization? We don't know. We were able to find a fee structure that just said kind of like big businesses will pay more than like small grocers, but there were no numbers listed. Is it an annual thing? Is it a biannual thing? Is it a monthly thing? Who knows? Like,
well,
there's so many questions.
There's some criteria to even be a member here. So like, check out this. So Section C, for the purposes of Section 2.1 of the bylaws, to be eligible for Class B membership in the corporation, the annual sales of the applicant must have been equal to or less than $350 million in the applicant's fiscal year immediately preceding the application. Right? Not to be outdone that, for the purposes of Section 2.1, to be eligible for Class E membership, the annual sales of the applicant must have been equal to or less than $1 billion. Equal to or less. Okay. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me.
No, you would think it would be equal to
or more. Right? So, because otherwise every single, company would have A, B, C, E, like it's such a poorly written document.
Yeah, this was not well thought through. Or maybe it was.
Yeah, maybe it was. 5W with a $5 super chat. Yeah, well, I'm going to build my own grocery store with blackjack and hookers.
Yes, I would go to that grocery store. Just for the Futurama reference.
Rabbit says with a $2 super chat. And do they get paid in craft dinner? Well, sure, why not? Everyone likes craft dinner. But anyhow, so this has been, bubbling up to the surface in news of late, and our good friend Mr. Champagne went on CTV News to talk with Vassy Kapelos about this, And this is how that went.
Start today with the cost of groceries, which remains a top concern as an affordability crisis keeps Canadians in its grips. After months of pushback, Loblaw says it's ready to sign the Grocery Code of Conduct, or the Grocer Code of Conduct, describing a revised version of it as now, quote, fair. The Code of Conduct aims to provide guidelines for fair dealings between grocery retailers and their suppliers, but it's only voluntary, and not all of the 5 major grocers have signed on. It's also one of the measures the feds pledged to accelerate back in the fall as a way to help stabilize the cost of groceries. The move from Loblaw comes as some Canadians are boycotting all Loblaw-owned stores in response to high food prices, but the company says its announcement has nothing to do with those demands. So once in place, will a code of conduct really impact your grocery bill, and is more foreign competition on the way? Industry Minister Francois Philippe Champagne is with us now to answer those questions. Minister, great pleasure to see you as always. Thank you for making the time.
Well, it's great to be with you from Quebec City today.
Yes,
so, real pleasure.
Glad to have you from Quebec as always. Minister, I wanted to start off on the question of the Code of Conduct. The news from Loblaw comes at the same time as we know that Walmart is still holding out. And Loblaw predicated its signing on to the Grocer Code of Conduct on all its competitors doing the same. Are you involved in any discussions to try and compel Walmart to sign on?
No, you know me, Vassy. Of course we are. You know, we've put pressure on Loblaws for months now, and we were very clear with them that whether they would sign on to the Code of Conduct voluntarily, otherwise there'd be legislation. So I think, you know, the pressure we put, and consumers generally, we were pushing on them. And now, as you might expect, the pressure is full on Walmart and Costco to do the same. We want all the large grocers in the country to sign on to the Code of Conduct. In my meetings with the Independent Grocer Associations of Canada, those represent about 4,900 smaller players and some of the smaller retailers and those who are part of the ecosystem. This is all about fairness and transparency. And we're going to put the pressure, and I call on them now. I mean, we're together. We've been reaching out to Walmart. I'm reaching out to Costco to say, listen, this is not a matter of choice. Consumers, Canadians, expect you to sign on the Code of Conduct, and we want you to do that very quickly. And we're going to keep the pressure on them.
So, couple things. They want Walmart and Costco to sign very quickly. They've been putting pressure on Loblaws this whole time, or else there would be legislation. So keep that in mind, because it's a running theme through the rest of the few minutes, in that if you don't sign willingly, we will legislate you to sign.
So do it already.
Okay. So what have you been waiting for?
It sounds like when Jagmeet says, he'll pull his support from the Liberals. Do it already.
Oh, right.
Do it already.
We're using that power to make the Liberals do what we want. Oh, okay. So
then why aren't they doing what you want?
So therefore, everything that has happened is by what Jagmeet wants. That's the only thing that Canadians can conclude from that, and this is why they've dipped below 17% in the polls for the first time. Coco Donnie with a $10 super chat. Hey Foxy, what is it with the T3s? I can down a dozen T2s, but 2 T3s make me ill. God forbid I add naproxen to that mix.
Okay, so in animals we don't use those because Tylenol is very, very toxic for cats. So never, ever, ever give your cat Tylenol. But I think it has something to do with the concentration of how much codeine is in it, and that's what makes a T1 from a T2 from a T3. Again, I don't 100% know because, again, veterinary, not human medicine, but that's what I think it is.
And Stephen C. with a member comment for 3 months. It terrifies me thinking about the damage that this unchecked Liberal NTP government is going to do to Canada before the election. Well, here's the thing. The Conservatives are doing a really good job at preventing any of their legislation from actually moving forward. They're using all of the parliamentary tricks that they have in their book to try to stop a lot of this damaging, legislation. And even, I call it damaging, even the pharmacare and the and the dental plan and all this stuff that costs money. Like, yes, we would all love free dental care. Yes, we would all love free drugs that we don't have to worry about paying, at the drugstore. But
it's not free.
it's not free.
Taxpayer funded.
Nothing in life is free. If they say it's free, they're lying. There's some sort of cost that comes and hits you at some point. So they're trying to stop that because, again, when you can't afford it, you don't buy the nice to haves in your house. It's the same thing with government. We have more important things to be spending money on than Taylor Swift tickets. Just saying. Dave Riches with a $7 super chat, watching from Morden, Manitoba. Keep up the good work. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing us over to Manitoba. Ravisays with a $5 super chat. It's kind of like standing behind a guy with a contract and demanding they sign it. Sign it! Because coercion always works, right? Oh, yeah. Anyway, let's continue. So remember, we'll threaten them with legislation.
You referenced just now the possibility of legislation, and I did want to ask you about that when you talk about applying pressure and what exactly that would mean, because the House committee that was looking into this did make a recommendation that there be essentially a law that would make it mandatory to compel these grocers to sign on. Is that a recommendation that you have formally accepted? Like, if they don't sign on, are you prepared to introduce legislation that would make it mandatory?
Well, listen, they will sign on. I mean, I have all faith that they'll do that. We've put pressure on Loblaws, and you
Put pressure on the Loblaws.
Well, listen, they will sign on.
Well, and he keeps going, oh, and Loblaws signed on. Do you know how Loblaws signed on? They said, we will sign on if our competitors sign on. That's not exactly a hard sign on.
Well, and I think it's because they know that Walmart has no intention of signing on.
Right. So therefore, Loblaws won't sign on, and they can go, oh, well, it's not our fault. It's Walmart's fault.
And Lisa LaCroix, I can't describe this any better than Lisa LaCroix. Champagne is a goof. Just how are you rehearsing this in your mind and thinking that this is going to sound intelligent? You're not even evading the question very well. Malay Loves Cats with a gift of 10 Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you very much for that. And 5W with a $5 super chat. Don't let the Swifties hear you say that. You put your life at risk. And Goko Donnie with a $5 super chat. I have a freezer full of prime rib because I caught sales. Timing is everything. Adulting takes more skill now, and it still sucks. Yes, it does.
Yes, absolutely. As a stay-at-home wife and mother, that's kind of one of my jobs, to go through the flyers and see what's on sale and when. And then if something goes on sale and I can make something out of it, that's what I do. Like, probably 2 months ago, my mom actually came up to help me because ground beef was on sale, and all we did all day was make shepherd's pies. And they're all sitting in the freezer.
There you go. Nilik with a $5 super chat. Getting groceries while listening to this 300 definitely doesn't buy you what it used to. It's tiring to listen to them while waiting for elections. Yes, it is. Unfortunately, we have to keep doing it. Jerry Savoy with a $5 super chat. Just put pressure on Loblaw about the rest of the grocery stores. Just put pressure on Loblaws. What about the rest of the grocery stores? Well, his argument is that they are now going to put pressure on Walmart now.
Well, this is what I don't understand. How did Loblaws become the scapegoat? Because the others are doing the exact same things.
Right?
So why Loblaws?
I think it's because they're the ones that have been mentioned in the House of Commons so much.
I wonder if it's because they were the ones that acquired Shoppers Drug Mart, which, even if you go into the cosmetics section, it's very expensive. They have a high markup on their cosmetics, even on the few food items that they do carry in store. They have high markups. So I wonder if that is reflecting in their profit margins, and that's why everybody's going after Loblaws. I don't know. I don't really care one way or the other. I just find it's interesting that Loblaws is the scapegoat above all the rest of them.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me because, again, the majority of the profits are from drugs and cosmetics. So if you buy a store that primarily sells drugs and cosmetics, then and then you were able to operationalize that store and reduce cost, you're sitting pretty. Just saying. Anyway, back to our friend.
You see the outcome. Obviously, I don't think it would be tenable for Costco or Walmart to disregard what the will of the government of Canada is and Canadian consumers. So we've been reaching out to them. We've done the same with Loblaws. But for me, Loblaws was really the one we need to convince to make sure that all the others would come on board. And like I said, now it's full pressure on the others to join, because that's the right thing to do. And they understand, as I said to Loblaws, and I'm saying it to you very publicly, Canadians expect them to do so, and they expect them to do so very quickly. So that's the nature of the discussions we have in the background with both Walmart and Costco.
Most Canadians don't even know what the grocery code of conduct is, and for him to sit there and say Canadians expect them to sign the grocery code of conduct.
I'll tell you what, I think most Canadians, and us included until we were researching for this show, I think most Canadians thought that the grocery code of conduct was something relating to consumers.
Yeah.
How the companies should be behaving in regards to consumers and prices and things like that. It's not. We just saw what it is. It's a joke.
There is nothing in the grocery code of conduct related to pricing. There's nothing in there related to consumers. There's nothing in there that says that you have to make efforts to lower your prices. So when Champagne and these other guys come out and they say their grocery code of conduct will lead to lower prices.
How?
Based on what? There's nothing in there. All it says is to play nice between the suppliers and make sure you have a written contract.
Do you know what? Something like this makes me wonder if it would actually make the prices go up. Because if you look at, for example, I call them the milk mafia. I think it's Dairy Canada, where they all kind of get together and set the prices for dairy products. And that's why you have... you hear stories about farmers having to dump milk. It's because of the milk mafia, essentially. And I wonder if all these grocery stores getting together and kind of teaming up would create that kind of dynamic where they're going to price fix, essentially.
Well, it doesn't surprise me, because that would be almost the exact same model that the telecom quote-unquote giants in Canada have been operating on for decades. They all have relatively the same prices, and they're relatively, high gouging prices on Canadians, because you compare that, with cell phone plans just to the, to the US. If you know anybody who's an American and ask their cell phone plan, it's ridiculous. So, anyhow, let's get to some of these. Diane Sylvain with a $5 super chat. You will sign on this contract, says Champagne, and if you do not, I will stand up and get off my high chair I'm sitting on. Right. Notice how they make him seem a lot taller in this.
He's so petite. We saw a image of him beside Trudeau, and he's quite short. I would imagine. I think Trudeau's like about 6'1", maybe 6'2", and Champagne has to be like a good 6 inches shorter.
Yeah, he's not. There he is. he's
so that's
got
to be 8 inches.
He's pretty.
Because I mean,
short.
what do you think it is from your forehead to your chin, right? That's got to be at least 8 inches.
Like, look at this. Like,
so he's got to be
weird.
Probably like 5'6".
Well, and here's him compared
5'5".
to like other, average Joes, right? So he's a short guy. Now, it doesn't matter if he's short or not. I don't care if the guy's short. The problem is the way he carries himself. It almost accentuates it, if you know what I mean. So, anyhow.
Yeah, because he's kind of arrogant. So it it doesn't do him any favors, I guess.
Ravusays with a $2 super chat because Jaggy's brother doesn't like them. And
wait, let's go back to that before you move on. I think that's a good point, because it just seems inappropriate to me, regardless of how you feel about Loblaws or any other company, but regardless how you feel about Loblaws, we'll focus on them, because I think it's inappropriate to have a government or other political parties or other political figures picking on one company specifically. It seems wrong to me. It's like if they were favoring one company, you would be like, why is that? They must be, their lobbyists must be very successful. They must be getting kickbacks, et cetera, et cetera. So why are they doing the opposite? Why are they tearing down this one company? It just seems inappropriate.
You're even hearing Champagne talk about Walmart and Costco. Nobody's mentioning Metro. Just saying. It's pretty conspicuous.
I think they already signed on, didn't they?
Maybe.
I could be wrong.
But why wouldn't you mention them and saying, oh, well, Metro and Loblaw signed on. So it's just a little strange. It's very loud, the silence of Metro on this. Let's receptionist with a $5 super chat in before they have another lavish, quote-unquote, affordability summit this summer with lobster rolls. Yeah.
Lobster rolls are great.
And we have Doo-Doo. Oh, sorry. No, we have Alice Avonlea with a $2 super chat. Just more bureaucracy and we pay with the taxes. Yes, absolutely. Dave Riches with a $7 super chat. Ask Champagne who is involved in the organization that created the code. Well, so
that's
allegedly,
what we're trying to figure out.
Allegedly, it's people from the industry. Allegedly.
That's all it says. I don't think somebody from the industry would have written that because it's
terrible.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if people were writing this who actually came from these grocery stores, then why would the grocery stores not sign it? It's very bizarre. Wayne Noonan with a member comment for 2 months. Did you see Shoppers Drug Mart is taking volunteers instead of hiring people so they can gain experience for other jobs?
I did see this. I actually saw this on Reddit, and I really did do the deep dive on this one because I wanted to know what the heck was going on. So this place was in Toronto, if I'm not mistaken, and in Ontario definitely, but I think the whole country, a pharmacist has to own the pharmacy. You can't have a corporation owning the pharmacy. So what happens is the corporation, Shoppers Drug Mart, will franchise like their name and stuff to a pharmacist who owns the pharmacy. And I guess what had happened was that particular franchisee decided that for whatever reason, they were going to put an ad out for a volunteer for a stocking position. Shoppers Drug Mart, the company, says we do not accept volunteers as employees. Like we have to pay the employees; they can't be volunteers. And the franchisee was claiming that it was a misunderstanding. So it's not like some big widespread thing. It was isolated to that store, to that one posting. And it seems like they've been set straight by the corporation. There you go. There's your clarification. So that was not a, I'll even say Loblaws, because Loblaws now owns Shoppers Drug Mart, that it wasn't a big box decision. It was a franchisee decision on that one. So it would be like if your local McDonald's around the corner decided that they wanted to start hiring volunteers. They're not supposed to do that. They're not allowed to do that. The corporate office would have a freak out if they found out that was going on. But it was just that one franchisee that decided to go rogue and do something they weren't supposed to do. Yeah. Doo-Doo with a $5 super chat. Wonder if Champagne is sitting on a couple of phone books. Phone books don't exist anymore, yo. They exist anymore. That's what my mom used to do for us when we were little. But he could be sitting on a couple of budgets because they were handing out these, really thick budgets for the 2024 budget, if you recall. And Revis Hayes with a $2 super chat. So he's channeling his inner Chihuahua. Bark, bark, bark. And Wifey for Life with a $5 super chat. Champagne is hard to listen to, and coming from me, a French speaker from Quebec, that's saying a lot. That was a good one. Okay, let's finish this up.
Respectfully, though, when you talk about that action coming quickly, it has not. This grocer code of conduct has been in the works for years. You announced, as we referenced in the introduction, Minister, that you would attempt to accelerate it through that pressure back in the fall. It's been more than 8 months since that happened. Now, one grocer has decided to change its mind. How can you be sure? You said the other two will sign on. My question, though, to you was whether or not, if they don't, you are prepared to make it mandatory through legislation. Can you answer that question specifically?
Well, I would say they were waiting in a way for Loblaws to come on board. And I would say when you have Loblaws who represent 30% of the market in Canada, I would tell you it seems to me untenable for either Walmart and Costco not to join the code of conduct, because that's what the industry wants. It's not just the government, it's not just the consumer, but that's what the industry wants. So Vassy, if we've been able to succeed collectively in pushing Loblaws towards signing, I'm very confident that we'll be able to do the same with Walmart and Costco. They understand that if they want to operate in Canada, they have to be part of the solution. I'm fairly confident that we'll get to where we need to be in a relatively short time period.
And I do certainly take your point, Minister, on time. But I think for many consumers and Canadians who are watching right now, I mean, they are struggling under the weight of how much those grocery prices have gone up, right? And it's against that backdrop that I'm asking the question, because what I interpret from your last two answers is that you are not willing to introduce legislation to compel them should those other two grocers not do what you expect them to do.
I love Vassy.
She's amazing.
No BS. All right, so you're not answering the question, so therefore you're not.
And I think that's what we said while we were watching it the first time around too.
Yeah.
When we were like screening it for the show. Yeah. We were just like, he's not admitting it, so.
But seriously, this is the thing, and to her point, you said that you're signing this quickly. It's been almost grocery prices have been jacking up since 2021. Gee, what happened right before 2021? Oh, right. A whole bunch of money entered the market that didn't exist before, causing hyperinflation. But, it's greedy CEOs that's the problem.
I want to read out this comment by D. Gillis because it's a very good comment. It says, not all items in the store are controlled by the store, like milk or bread or even chips. The price is set before it comes in. And that's absolutely accurate. As I had mentioned, the milk board sets their prices. They control how much milk there is, and they control that through multiple means. And if you remember a little while ago, I think it was in 2022, where Loblaws stores were not carrying Lay's brand chips.
Yep.
And that was because Lay's wanted to charge way more than Loblaws wanted to sell for. So sometimes the prices are not controlled by the store themselves. Sometimes they are set by the company selling the product. And the store essentially rents the shelf space.
Yeah, I remember it was just a whole bunch of miscellaneous Bob's name brand chips that were on the on
the shelves. Yeah.
Which, maybe that was a good thing because I didn't buy chips for that whole time. So, and I imagine, they lost a lot of revenue on chips and party related products.
But they did fill the shelves, and it got Canadians looking at other options other than Lay's brand chips.
But I think the point is if those other options did a really good job, then they may not have gone back to the Lay's brand chips in the first place. So, Jerry Savoy with a $5 super chat. Funny thing, Philippe never say about Sobeys or Metro. Yeah, and that was my point too, Jerry. Same thing. Lost Labradorian with a $5 super chat. So that you retracted your message. So we'll be watching Barnaby if you do want to say something. Let him know. Gogodani with a $10 super chat. Chihuahua Boy has to be sitting standing on the GTA phone book. What a tiny man playing like he's an adult. Vassy is more than he is. Full stop. Wow. And 5W with a $2 super chat. Must be taller than the slide to right. Jeez. And Nilik with a $5 super chat. Jagmeet's brother is used on the news for political analysis. Why is a politician's family used to represent party analysis while repping Metro? Right? It's a little strange.
Yeah, and again, it's not him specifically that's repping Metro, but it is his
Firm.
company.
His firm, yeah.
So again, how do I feel about that? I don't know. It's kind of icky.
It's greasy.
Yeah, that's the word.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. We've been very clear that if it did not happen, but this was at the time we needed to push Loblaws. Now you're talking about two of the smaller players in the industry. So when you have the big players, when you have, Sobeys, Metro, and Loblaws, which are, market leaders in Canada, when you're down to the two others, all the indication that I have is that we will be able to achieve that. But I've always been clear on that, Vassy. All the tools of the government are on the table to make sure we reach that. Like you said, this is just one of the many things we've been trying to do. We still need to tackle food price stability. This is one item. It's going to provide fairness and more transparency. I can tell you there were a number of practices in the industry that I've learned when we engaged with independent grocers that were concerning. That code of conduct is going to help. It's a step in the right direction. It's not. That's not going to lead necessarily to lower prices in the short term, but at least it helps to stabilize prices, to bring more fairness, more stability.
Just before I let you go, I know your time is limited. I just wanted to ask you.
So they obviously talked a little bit more about that, but they get into the electric vehicle plants. But we're not going to get into that part. They cut the discussion on the grocery section evidently right there. But so at the end, he finally says Sobeys and Metro sounds like they have signed on as per what Fox said. But it's interesting that he's been very silent on them up until this point.
Well, after reviewing the quote-unquote code of conduct, it's no surprise that Loblaws, Walmart, and Costco don't want to sign on because there's nothing there. Like, it's just fluff. Why would you sign on to that? It's essentially, I think this code of conduct is so that the government can pass off
that they're doing something.
Yeah, so that they can say, oh, look what we've done. We've done this code of conduct, and if it's not working, it's the grocer's fault. Meanwhile, it's the carbon tax that's raising prices. It's the increase in population that's raising prices. Like, what else? What else are these grocers supposed to do? Like, I'm not saying that they are perfectly innocent, but it seems like in this case, the majority of the cause of why groceries are so expensive has everything to do with the government.
Well, and it's pretty strange because the code of conduct, from what I can see, it seems to be favoring the suppliers over the grocery stores. Now, you can say that's a good thing. You can say that's a bad thing. But as it relates to that, what happens if the suppliers try to essentially hold the grocery stores, ransom, kind of like Lay's tried to do, and that way they don't get any food to Canadians. This kind of allows them to do that, and through filing this dispute, right? There's this dispute process. How long is that going to take? How long should it take? It's not laid out in the code of conduct. That's a problem. Because if a supplier has a dispute with one of the grocery chains, and they decide, well, I'm going to hold all of my product until that dispute is actually resolved. Well, what if that dispute takes months to resolve? That's a problem. And it's a problem because the grocery stores have to find other product in order to take that product's place, and they don't know how long that's going to take. So, again, when you're talking about supply chains that are borderline just-in-time delivery, like we talked about before, that's very challenging to navigate. Trish Pro with a $2 super chat, 1,147 viewers and 921 likes. Hit that like button.
Yes, please.
And Lost Labradorian with a $2 super chat, thought I was stunned when I heard Liv speak. No, you are not stunned. They are. And Rob Vassy with a $5 super chat. Oh, all the tools of the government. That means the notwithstanding clause, right? Nice invocation of that, Rob Vassy. And Alta Peasley with a $14 super chat. I'm pretty sure it's Red Pill North that says champagne sounds like a man sucking helium. Cypher, you might need helium to do your impersonation. Well, I can do a pretty good impersonation of Smeagol, but I think that's a little bit more manly than champagne.
You do a good champagne impression. It's just Cypher was intubated on Thursday for his surgery, so he's not going to be doing that anytime soon.
No. No.
Give your vocal cords a rest.
Pat Little with a $5 super chat. Maybe they hate Galen Weston's PC commercials. Yeah. And Wendy M with a $7 super chat. I would agree to anything to get Champagne to quit talking. Bring on the waterboarding.
Oh no.
That's pretty harsh.
So illegal.
That's pretty harsh. Anyway, so that's our deep dive, or semi-deep dive, into the grocery code of conduct.
Yeah, it's not that deep because the document itself wasn't that deep.
It was pretty shallow.
It was bizarre.
And yeah, again, looks like that's the most current document because that's the website, and that document looks like it hasn't been touched since November 27th of 2023. So it hasn't been touched in 7 months. And that's it. And there's no author on it. It's just That's
Here's
what it
the
is.
document.
Here's my assignment, Professor. Canadian Legacy with a $14 super chat. I figure if Champagne gets voted out next year, he can always get an executive position with Keepler.
Very nice.
Maybe he can be their mascot. I don't know. Anyhow, let's see what we have going on. Okay. Sunday, May the 19th. So, we're getting into Q&A period now. So,
If you have questions, please tag Barnaby and he'll push them up to us. We'll try to get to as many as we can.
so we're going all the way back to 9:43 when everyone started putting these in. So, okay. Drew Johns, with some of the mainstream now asking tough questions and putting Sockboy in his place, do you think that will break him? Because he does look worried. He does look worried for
That question's for you, yeah.
if he's worried about me, he should be.
We're coming. We're going to get you.
I think the Liberals are getting very concerned. And I don't think it's because the mainstream media are asking questions, but it's not helping. The main reason that they are getting so concerned is because in the Liberal political playbook, when they are up against the wall and they don't really have any other good options, they always resort to the name calling, to the racist tags, to the white supremacist tags, to the abortion tags, all of that, right? They use all those scare tactics to try to push back. And that's what they did against Andrew Scheer. That's what they did against Aaron O'Toole, and it worked. The trouble is this time it's not working. It's not budging based on the latest polls. So when your last, when your Hail Mary doesn't work, what do? You panic, and that's what's going on. Because I agree, if you look at Trudeau in these latest press conferences, he looks erratic. When he's off message, when he's being challenged by these questions, he looks erratic because he doesn't know what to say anymore, and he doesn't know what to do. So, but the media, when the media asks them these hard questions, especially that lady, what was it from Globe and Mail, basically saying, nobody likes you here, man. Why are you here?
Laura was her name.
Laura, yeah.
Yeah.
It just reminds him that there's no bright light at the end of his tunnel. Now, we were watching another video today where the postulation was that if they change leaders by December and they have somebody else new come in and kind of reorganize their government over the winter break, that gives them 6 to 8 months as a prime minister to kind of put them back on track. That didn't make any sense to me whatsoever, because the only real shot that you have is between February 1st and June of next year. That's it. So you only have about 4 months in order to do anything as a new leader, as a new prime minister, to establish what your potential leadership style would be if you were elected again. That's not enough time.
You think they need somebody over the summer so that they've got the fall, the winter, and then the start of the fall again?
Well, I agree with Tom O'Kerr. So Tom O'Kerr was talking about this with CTV back in February. He had said if they're going to be changing leaders, they need to do it now, meaning back in February. Why? Because you need that lead-up time for a new leader to come in and let the Canadian public kind of feel them out as to how they are going to lead the Liberal Party as the new prime minister. So that would have given them the spring sitting period into the summer, the fall period of 2024, and the winter period and the spring period of next year. You need that amount of time, and even then it may not have been enough. But at this point, if they don't change over the summer, it's Trudeau's to lose, because if they change after that like they're already done. But they
There's not enough time.
There's just not enough time politically for them to establish any sort of identity. It's just basically going to be the last gasp of the Liberal Party, and it's not going to be a pretty one. Kokodani with a $5 super chat. PSA: never dive into the puddle. I have more meat in the freezer than that document tried to claim it has. And we have Ravi says with a $5 super chat. Well, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just that it's a train. Honk honk.
And we have Canadian Legacy with a $13.99 super chat. It says, I figure if Champagne gets voted out next year, he can always get an executive position with Keebler. Oh, sorry, that one's a repeat.
Yeah.
There, I got a 2 for that one.
And Mumblin May, member comment for 3 months. Hello, Northern Perspective. Do you feel there is any merit to the rumors implying that the Liberal caucus is pushing JT to get the polling numbers up or he goes? Yes, we've
It's
actually
possible.
commented on that.
Yeah.
It is not coincidence that it was quote unquote leaked or suggested that Justin Trudeau or the Liberals wanted to see a 5-point bump by June. That is not...
It does kind of seem like an
coincidence.
ultimatum.
It definitely is. And I think it was a public ultimatum. I think it was so that everybody knew that was the plan. And
many people within the Liberal Party are not happy.
No, they're really not happy. That's
and
correct.
I don't even mean necessarily just the politicians. I mean like other party members.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're just sitting there watching Trudeau destroy their party.
And he says, oh, I'm not going to quit. I'm not that type of person. Well, we don't care whether you're that type of person or not. The future of the party's at stake. So that's what some of these people are saying. So I think that is absolutely what is going on right now. Because, like, the Liberals seem to follow a little bit more political sense than the NDP, who, the NDP's political sense is, on page 4 of that document, which was blank. So the Liberals actually seem to have some sort of strategy here that can be followed. And I don't see how you go into that next election with Trudeau if there's zero improvement. And in fact, there's kind of negative improvement going on here. They're sliding back even further. So yeah, I think if nothing happens in the polls, you're going to see Trudeau find an excuse or be given an excuse to step down over the summer. I think that's what's going to happen. Jerry Savoy with a member comment for 8 months. I hear Justin Trudeau has 60 days to change Liberal Party direction before he gets kicked out of the Liberal Party. Well, and that goes on to what we were talking about. And I think we brought that up a couple of weeks ago when that suggestion was first brought up. I think it was from Toronto Sun. Nelik with a $2 super chat. Apparently, the new poll has Trudeau up amongst young people.
I had heard that, and my question to them is just why? Like, what do you think he's going to accomplish? I mean, he's had 9 years to accomplish something, and things have just gotten worse. I mean, I'm fortunate that I was a young person, ready to start my life, ready to start a family under Stephen Harper. Otherwise, we would not have been able to purchase a home and have a child, like in this economy. If I was 10 years ago, so if I was in my 20s now, we wouldn't be able to do that stuff. And that's all because Justin Trudeau and the Liberals have completely destroyed our economy.
Diane Sylvain with a comment. So Champagne has a new job already. All the dishes were washed behind him. Great laughs in the chat today. Love to all, and remember always to laugh at the libs when you can. Narcissists hate being laughed at.
They sure do.
Especially when they're trying to be super serious. And Wayne Noonan with a $7 super chat. Did you see the Nanos, Trudeau, and Poilievre credibility ratings video by CTV? Just wondering your thoughts on that. Yeah, we did.
We did. Again, my question would be why? Like, why do you think that Justin Trudeau has a quote-unquote high credibility in the 30s and that Pierre Poilievre has almost the same credibility but slightly higher? Like, it just... I think it's kind of hard to judge Poilievre because he's not in government, so he's not able to make promises that are then broken or make promises that are then followed through with. But for Trudeau, we definitely see what he's done. So why is his rating almost the same as Poilievre's?
I think it also depends on who the people were asking. So, but to try and look at this sort of objectively, people may be looking at Poilievre and think that he is more of a, I will say, not a bully, but he has a bit of a mouth on him.
Yeah, he's kind of aggressive when he's in the House, but he has to be because that's his job. The job of the leader of the opposition is to stand up to the government.
Right, and I think one of the reasons why the Liberals are having so much trouble with Pierre, and Fox and I have talked about this, is because Pierre is not afraid to go after him. And when Trudeau has somebody going after him, he gets very uncomfortable, right? Because he's a narcissist. So when you had Andrew Scheer and when you had Aaron O'Toole, they were more, I will call them stately, right? They were more polite. They were not aggressive.
They were more like prim and proper.
Right. And the thing is that's not the type of leader that they needed to take down Justin Trudeau, and I think they've learned that. They needed the pit bull, and that is what Pierre was. Now, the true test of Pierre is not going to be as the leader of the official opposition. The true test of Pierre is how is he going to conduct himself when he's the prime minister, right? I don't see Pierre, calling people names or insulting them, on the world stage. I don't see him doing that. Because I think he understands that that's a different arena, and that he needs to have a
decorum, right?
Yeah, it's a different audience, right? He's not trying to get rid of Justin Trudeau at that point. He's representing Canada, so I have a lot more faith that he's going to humiliate Canada a lot less than Justin Trudeau has done. So. And when he is, like, here's the thing, people that say, well, he wasn't prime ministerial in question period when he was going after Trudeau. If Canadians need any understanding of how Pierre is and how a prime minister should act, go to one of his rallies, wait to talk to him, and tell him your story. That's all you need to do. You will see the prime minister in Pierre Poilievre when you see him react to your story, because he reacts with complete empathy, with sympathy, understanding, and I'll say grace. Like, he is very graceful as he is dealing with all of those stories. He makes you feel that he actually does give a damn.
And everything we've heard from the politicians that we know and the former politicians that we know, he is that kind of person. He's, kind and compassionate, and he's a good dad, and he's a wonderful husband. But he has to be the opposition right now. He has to be abrasive right now.
So, because that's what's needed, right? That's what's needed.
That's what's needed to get Trudeau out of office. Because, we love Andrew Scheer, absolutely, but he was not abrasive and aggressive the way Pierre is, and Trudeau's still in office, right?
Now, just one more point on that poll. So, for those who haven't seen it, the polling numbers, and it was out of 10, and I don't know who how many they called. Nanos typically has a very low sample size.
Yeah,
too.
usually it's around 1,000, which is considered the minimum.
Yeah, you should really have 2,000 and up for that. But so Pierre's rating was 3.9 out of 10, and Trudeau's rating was 3.7 out of 10. So I say to the Liberals, what does it say that Canadians have the Conservatives as a party rated 20 points over Trudeau, but Pierre at 0.2 over Trudeau? What does it say that Canadians are saying, we don't care who the leader of the Conservative Party is, we just need the Conservatives in power? So if you really want to kind of take another angle on these polls, that's what that means. But I think a lot of people that are rating Pierre haven't met him. And I would encourage them to do so and make their own decision. Kokodani with a $5 super chat. PSA: if you want to be in front of the big bad truck, do big bag truck speed. We're allowed 15 over anything posted. It ain't a joyride we're on. There you go. So basically, get out of the way. That's what Kokodani is saying. And Kyle Rux with a $2 super chat. Code wrote by Champagne, Chumpagne and Firth. Thank you very much for that. And Nilik with a $5 super chat. They like the rob the rich idea. Apparently, he's up 12 points with young people, mainly 18 to 25-year-olds. No idea why. Well, they are indoctrinated coming right out of university for the most part.
They are, and I think we're telling young people, you know, if you go to university and you get a degree, it doesn't matter what it's in. You'll have an amazing job waiting for you when you get out. And then they get out and they realize that their degree isn't even worth the paper it's written on because they went into a completely oversaturated field, can't get a good job, can't get a job at all. Housing prices are insane because of Canada's supply and demand problem with housing. And they feel robbed. And, you know, I can empathize with that, but communism is not the solution.
Yeah, communism, you lose everything. So that's
well, they seem to think that if we take from the rich people, the quote unquote rich people, that we'll have more. But really, communism, everybody gets dragged down.
Yeah, they don't just take from the rich; they take from everybody. Yeah. Gokodani with a $2 super chat. Golf course crowd versus 7-Eleven crowd. There you go. And we have Gokodani chipping in with another 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you very much for that, Gokodani. And Robert says with a $5 super chat. I've said it before, but Andrew, he's an awesome house leader and speaker, but those qualities that led him to a loss as PM. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
I think he's a great guy. He's very talented at what he does. But sometimes we have, a specialty in one area that doesn't necessarily translate well to another area. And that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make you a bad person. But it seems to be that his specialty was as speaker and as house leader.
And he's one of Pierre's not so secret weapons in the House, right? Because he knows all of the parliamentary procedure. He was speaker. He was leader of the official opposition. And I have so much respect for Andrew Scheer that he chose to stick around and put Canada above his own pride and put Canada above his own feelings, because he could have just said, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to be embarrassed. I lost as the leader of official opposition. No, he stuck around and said, I still have a lot to do, a lot to give, and if it's not me, that's okay. I'm going to help the next guy become prime minister. So I have so much respect for Andrew Scheer just for doing that.
Oh, for sure. He put the party above his own personal aspirations.
100%. Humble Tracker with 5 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you very, very much. Good to see you. And okay, now we can get to...
I have one important one to read first. It's from Tammy Robinson. It says, I volunteered for Poilievre's leadership campaign. Treated us like gold. What you see is what you get. Genuine guy through and through.
Excellent.
That's awesome to hear, because, again, we've heard it from the politicians we know. And it's very nice to hear it coming from, people in the public and volunteers as well, that those stories match up, that the politicians aren't just telling us something that we want to hear, right? So that's really good to hear that. Thanks, Tammy.
Okay. Vivian McDonald Miles, can the Governor General call an election?
So it is the Governor General's job to call the election. What typically happens... and I actually sent a link in the background chat if you wanted to pull it up. It's near the bottom. You'll see it. That one. Sorry, we're just going to get this on the screen while I read it.
Let's do this. Okay, here we go.
Stand by.
Oh, you want me? Oh, I see.
Yeah, if possible.
Yep. Stand by. Here we go, everybody.
Alrighty. So what typically happens is the Prime Minister traditionally visits the Governor General at Rideau Hall and submits an instrument of advice to the Governor General recommending dissolution. An instrument of advice is a written document representing the Prime Minister's personal recommendation that the Governor General authorize a constitutional or legislative action of government. The signing of these documents normally takes place at Rideau Hall. When a dissolution is agreed to, the documents are signed in the following order, and then it gives the documents, which you can see there on the screen. So what happens is, traditionally the Prime Minister will go to the Governor General. The Governor General will dissolve Parliament, and then we go to election. So it's the Governor General who takes that action to dissolve Parliament and then go to election. What will happen before the end of a term is they will still go to the Governor General to dissolve Parliament. Sometimes they do it the day of, sometimes they'll do it a couple days ahead of time. But again, it's the Governor General who has to undertake that action to dissolve Parliament and issue the writs of election, and then we go to election. The Governor General theoretically can remove the Prime Minister from power and then recommend that we go to election. However, that has never happened in our country's history.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't see it happening because it's not their traditional role. Rob says with a $5 super chat, socialism, bringing everyone down to the lowest common denominator so everyone is the same shade of gray. Yep, except for the people that are the ones that are actually bringing everybody down.
Right, the people running it are the ones that make off like bandits because they control everything.
Yeah. Pamela Leah, member for 2 months. My sister and I got into a debate about Pierre's stance on women's rights. Pierre has my vote, but told he is confusing women with his comments. I don't know if he's confusing women with his comments. I think it's
The
Trudeau,
Liberals and the NDP.
yeah, that are throwing in this abortion bit. So, what happened was, and this is it all became revealed why the Liberals and the NDP threw in contraception to this pharmacare bill. And it was pretty smart, to be honest, because it gave them a hammer to hit the Conservatives with, because they knew the Conservatives would oppose the bill, because that's literally their job, is to oppose the legislation of the government. So,
well, no, it's to make it better, but when the government is doing something so awful and horrible that there's no remedy, I suppose, then it's their job to oppose it.
So what ended up happening is when the Conservatives started speaking against the pharmacare bill, that was the Liberals and the NDP's chance to use the contraception to hit them over the head with it. So what was that? Well, they're saying that the Conservatives are against a woman's right to choose because they're voting against the pharmacare bill. And that's not what the Conservative stance on this is at all. What the stance is this is a very, very poorly written bill. It's not even going to do anything for probably about 5 years. And we can't afford the program in the first place. So why are we even talking about this? But the Liberals and the NDP would have you believe, well, the only reason that they're opposed to this is because they're against this and women's right to choose, women's control of their own bodies, and all of this. This is the Hail Mary of the left, right? So then Pierre was talking about crime, and he was talking to a bunch of the police associations, and he was saying that they would not be afraid to use the notwithstanding clause in order to force the courts to do what was necessary for some of the issues with regard to crime. So what the Liberals then chose to do is take that statement. Oh, okay, so Pierre says he's not afraid to use the notwithstanding clause. Well, if he's not afraid to use it, then he may use it on abortion and then bring all of that back. So this is the narrative that the Liberals and the NDP are desperately now trying to frame around Pierre and the Conservatives. What they will also tell you is, oh, well, Pierre's MPs went to pro-abortion rallies. Okay, so a couple of the Conservative MPs are pro-abortion.
And some are anti-abortion.
Some are anti-abortion.
Yeah.
And I think there's 2 out of 117 that went to a pro-abortion rally.
Anti-abortion rally.
anti-abortion rally. That's what the Liberals are trying to frame this as. So they're trying to frame this as all of the Conservatives are anti-abortion, all of the Conservatives are against birth control, all of the Conservatives are going to gang up and use the notwithstanding clause to abolish abortion in Canada. That is the narrative that they are trying to create here. And in no uncertain terms, it is literally written into the Conservatives' charter of policies that they've agreed to last fall. I believe it's number 89 on page 32.
86.
86. And it literally says the Conservative government will not remove any legislation as it relates to abortion.
Yeah, that they will not support any legislation related to abortion. Someone had pointed out on Twitter, correctly, actually, that somewhere else within that policy declaration says that Conservative MPs will be permitted to vote according to their conscience on like hard-hitting topics like MAID and abortion. And they said, well, if you get enough Conservative MPs together, then they can overvote it and blah, blah, blah. The way our government works is that the government is composed of the Prime Minister, the Cabinet, and your parliamentary secretaries. So they are not permitted to promote any bills or anything relating to abortion. So they will not put any bills through the House. They will not vote for any bills that are anti-abortion. They're not permitted to. That's in the policy declaration.
Right.
The backbenchers, if a bill came up that was pro or anti-abortion, they could vote anti-abortion on it. However, the government, again, the Prime Minister, the Cabinet, and the secretaries would not permit that bill to go through. What they could do, the backbenchers, and they would need the aid of either the Liberals or the NDP or the Bloc even, they could put through a private member's bill to try to get anti-abortion legislation passed.
Again, just to show it in black and white, here it is.
Yeah, but it's not really possible because the Liberals or the NDP or the Bloc wouldn't sign on to that. So any way you try to frame this, it's dead in the water. It's not going through. The Conservatives are not going to touch abortion laws. They cannot touch abortion laws with the way our legislative process works.
Well, and here's the other thing. You know, the Liberals are trying to use this as such a boogeyman. They're trying to say, like Trudeau actually said this. He said, well, you know, the reversal of Roe v. Wade was done in the United States. It's even more likely to happen up here.
No, it's not.
And it's complete bull. So, you know, he is, if anything, shame on Justin Trudeau for trying to scare the heck out of all of these people and create this boogeyman that isn't there. Like, he's the one who talks about misinformation and disinformation. He is the king of both. Diane Sylvain with a $50 super chat. The RCMP said in a CTV article about the need to regulate invective speech directed at MPs to make it more civil and respectful. Crazy when all serious stuff already covered in the CCCC. A priority with the RCMP now. Seriously? Tyranny. Sent an email. Yeah, so I looked into that as well. And it seems like, yeah, it was some outlets and people have made this a lot more than it actually is. So I know he was specifically talking about threats to MPs, and yeah, that should be covered in the Criminal Code of Canada. That's what Diane's talking about with the Triple C there.
Right, yeah. I mean, we can't sit here and be like, oh, you know, MP XYZ, you know, we should do ABC to them and whatever. Like, you can't make threats, bottom line.
Yeah, and that should already be covered. But, you know, making fun of MPs, welcome to politics. That's you know, part and parcel of it. You have to have a thick skin when you're in politics. People are going to say some nasty stuff to you. If you can't handle that, don't go into politics. But threats are a different ballgame. So I completely agree with that, Diane. But you know, some people are trying to twist that to say, well, you know, the RCMP is asking for tools so that people can't criticize MPs. That's not what I got from that. But thank you very much for that. And Humble Tracker with a $10 super chat. Thank you very much. Quote, the test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function, end quote. Scott Fitzgerald. I've heard that quote, and it's a challenging one. It's a very challenging one to actually achieve. Wayne Noonan with a $7 super chat. Cypher, I don't mean to correct you, but in my last chat it was Turdo, not Trudeau. Oh, my apologies. My apologies. It's probably the meds. It wasn't an accidental spelling error. Use the emoji next time as well, Wayne, and I'm sure I'll get it. Thank you very much for the correction. I welcome that. We always want to be accurate. And Lady Loves Cats with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much. And what about the right to choose when it came to Vaccine 2021? Hey, what about that right to choose? Well, and that's the question, right? Never mind women's right to choose. He didn't give anybody any right to choose.
Well, and that's the thing that I find very strange is you get a lot of liberals and left-leaning people saying that they are pro-choice, but also pro-vaccine.
Well, pro-mandate, rather.
Yeah, pro-mandated vaccines, I should say. Like everybody has to have one. So I find it interesting how they kind of work that out in their heads, but
yeah, and yeah,
I don't know how to explain it. It's just it seems like those two ideas are kind of at odds with each other, because in the one scenario you want full bodily autonomy, and then in the other you're taking that away.
Yeah. I could go on for probably 2 hours about that.
Yeah.
Robert says with a $5 super chat, the lies or liberals always seem to accuse the conservatives of the very stuff they have in the works. Yeah, it is pure projection. 5W with a $2 super chat. I will never make threats, just promises.
Oh, no.
Knock, knock, knock.
It's like what my mom used to say when I was growing up.
Knock, knock, knock.
Good
Okay. Let's get to some more here. More, as Barnaby says. Okay. Dark Detective, my question is, why do you guys trust Pierre? He's too inconsistent for me to trust him.
I'm not sure he's displayed any inconsistencies, not that I've noticed anyways. I mean, if you would like to expand on that, please feel free. But to me, he's talking common sense stuff, you know? We need to get more doctors in this country, and the way we can do that is by recognizing foreign skill sets. We need to get more skilled laborers, as in we need people building houses. We need to match our immigration levels to the number of houses that we have or that are projected to have. You know, we can't be spending all this money on these runaway bloated government programs like dental, like the pharmacare, like the daycare stuff. Are those things nice to have? Absolutely. And I don't doubt that they do help people. But unfortunately, taxpayers cannot foot the bill for that right now.
Well, and here's the other thing. Do we think Pierre is a nice guy after we met him? Yeah. Is that why, we'll be voting Conservative? Absolutely not. That is not the reason. The reason why is because the platform that they have talked about overall makes sense. We don't agree with everything, because you'll never agree with everything in a platform. And if you do, challenge yourself, because that means you've probably bought into an ideology. If you really challenge yourself, you'll find something that you disagree with, and that's a good thing. But we agree with the vast majority of the platform that they are putting forward, which is free speech, which is rescinding a bunch of the legislation that the Liberals have put in. C11, C18, C63, well, preventing C63 from going in. Would we like pharmacare and all of those funded programs? Sure. Can we afford them as Canada? Absolutely not. We cannot. The crime reforms that the Liberals have put in that have just been disastrous for Canada, that needs to come out. Now, Pierre's housing plan, it can't just be, we need to mandate that the municipalities build X many homes per year, every year. It needs to be a little bit more comprehensive than that.
Well,
I think that's a good start.
I think it is. I think the other thing is that he does not want to give away too many of his ideas until it's election time, because as we've seen, the Liberals are starting to take them.
Yeah, but he also has really good ideas in terms of, helping our workers that have come in from other countries get to work in highly skilled jobs, if they can put together a test or a screening process to get them into work within weeks or months, instead of the 10 years, or some of them never do, because it's too hard. So there's a lot of good things that they want to do. The Liberals are just flailing. They're just yelling climate change and putting in legislation just to try and score some points. That's the only reason why they're doing it. And it seems like the Conservatives and Pierre's platform is actually well thought out, and there's an actual plan to it. So that's I think how I would respond to that. But great question. Glenn Stewart heard about that code from a friend who is a franchisee. Got a strange response when I asked about it. The response was, laughed and said it will cause a lot of mess. Well, I guess we know why now. So now that we've actually seen it. And Rabu Sadies with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Clyde did the math. It's going to be more than one house. It's going to need more than one house a second. It's not one house a second.
I know we did it for if they were building around the clock and it was more than a house a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe if it was an 8-hour workday, which I know construction guys usually work 12, 14-hour days, but let's just arguably say 8, then maybe. But yeah, I can't do math in my head that quickly.
And comment regarding drugs. Shiba Kobe, Cypher, take it from someone who's had surgery a few times. Take your meds. Go away.
See, is this where I get to say I told you so?
No.
What the hell is going on?
Proud Canadian. The Libs argue the Parliamentary Budget Office says that we get back more than we pay into the carbon tax. Pierre Poilievre says that the Parliamentary Budget Office report claims that Canadians are paying more than they're getting. Has anyone confirmed this? So, yes. There's two different reports or stats. The problem is the Liberals only want to consider one of them. So the first one is that when you're talking about carbon tax, and the initial measurement on this was gasoline and home heating, and I think that was it, then Canadians would get back more, 80% of Canadians would get back more in these carbon checks than they would at the pumps or for their home heating. Now the problem is that didn't take into account all of the aggravating factors, which is the second report. And that second report is what the Parliamentary Budget Officer confirmed to at committee when he says, when you take into account the carbon price elevating everything, then that's going to elevate the cost of goods. It's going to elevate the cost of food, the cost of literally everything.
Yeah, clothing,
airline
medicine,
tickets, everything.
shampoo, everything.
So when you factor in that, then 60% of Canadians pay more than they actually get back. So that has been confirmed. The problem is Trudeau and their talking points, they only want to talk about that first report and that first metric.
I have Andrew and T.O. who did the math for us. It says with a 12-hour workday and 5 days a week, it's a house every 17 seconds.
There you go.
Holy smokes. And clarification from Dark Detective. It says specifically his criticisms of Liberal censorship policies like Bill C-18 and 11 and anti-privacy law Bill C-27, but then supports Bill S-210, which is much worse.
So S-210 isn't censorship. That's different. It's we disagree with Bill S-210.
We're not defending S-210 at all. We think it's a garbage bill.
It's a different class of legislation. So in terms of censorship, that's we completely agree, and I think we agree with Pierre that he's against censorship. Bill S210. I don't know if it's even made it to the House yet.
No, it's still in the report. No, it's
Yeah.
still in committee stage. Sorry.
In Senate committee.
No, in House of Commons committee. We've been watching this one pretty closely because we do have just a curiosity with it. Because again,
yes.
it's one of the few conservative things that we do not agree with, like, at all.
Yeah, so it has nothing to do with censorship. It has everything to do with age verification for adult content on the internet, which is it's a completely different kettle of fish. And while at the core of the bill, you can say it's admirable that they want to protect children, sure. But the means and how they do that, that's not specified in the bill. And in knowing a little bit about this, it opens up, it basically signals to every hacking group on the planet that there's a huge bullseye on whatever method that they're going to actually implement here, that this is going to be the gold mine for ransomware. Because think about how many people access adult content on the internet. Now think about how many people wouldn't want it to get out what they're accessing on the internet in terms of that adult content.
Well, if you listen to like true crime detectives and stuff, they will say that people are very intimate with their computers and devices. People will often search for things in terms of adult content that they would not dare discuss with their partner because, they're concerned of the shame or whatever. But point being, you're looking for this information online, or you're looking for this particular content online, I should say. And you have to give over, say it's a driver's license you have to scan, or you have to give some form of ID in order to access it. What's to stop hackers from going, oh, that guy, he has this kind of fetish, or that guy likes this kind of content?
Right. So it allows hackers to ransom these guys or these girls or whoever it is based on their fetishes.
I said guys because it's men, I think, access
majority men.
Visual porn more than women do. So
yeah, I think it's about 80%. But it introduces so many problems, and it introduces so many other problems that the bill doesn't consider. Okay, so does Disney Plus now have to have age verification for all the R-rated content? What about Netflix? What about Amazon?
Yeah, is Game of Thrones R-rated?
And then how far do you take this? Does this mean that your ISP is the one that has to be the gatekeeper of that? And how are they going to verify your age? And so there's so many problems with it, and it is all at risk, right? So there's a saying in information security: it's not if, it's when. So when that data gets hacked, then what? And it's not a good picture. So we are completely against that. And plus, we think that what parents need, because we're parents ourselves, what parents need is not, more excuses to not pay attention to their kids. They need to actually pay attention to their kids and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And maybe that means you don't get a cell phone. So, but those are other opinions that, will no doubt cause some very animated discussions, but that's just our opinion on that. But even taking that piece away, when you're talking about age verification for adult content, it's a recipe for disaster on the internet. Rabbi says with a $5 super chat, there is no such thing as a 100% secure data system. With the value of that data, the target would be nation, state, and scale. 100%. And that's what I mean. It would be a gold mine, and it would be a bullseye.
And I don't know if we read this other super chat from Rabbi Sadies. It says it's also just the first carbon tax. The second is not included in that calculation.
Correct. Okay. Let's see. I want to make sure I am caught up here. Well wisher. Oh no, that's the category. Paul Barnett, get well soon, Cypher. Thank you very much for that. And let's see. Shibakobi, whoever wrote the code, quote, tell me you never looked up how contracts work without telling me you have no clue about how contracts work. I agree with that one. And Paul Barnett, again, my friend is a kindergarten teacher, and this sounds like what she tells her students.
About the code of conduct,
yeah. Vivian McDonald Miles, what happens to the ongoing committee investigations like the CBSA? President O'Gorman needs to be terminated. What happens once the government changes? So, you want to take this?
Yeah, so when Parliament is dissolved by the Governor General, everything stops. If there's any bills in the works, like say Bill S63 that's only passed first reading, or maybe some of the other bills that haven't received royal assent yet, or everything in committee also just stops. All the work stops. And then we go to election, and then the new government is brought in. When the new government is brought in, whether it's the same party or another party who's formed government, they have the option. They can choose whether or not to continue with these committee meetings, these committee hearings about these studies, or they have the option of just leaving it. Sometimes what will happen is the government will call an election itself to stop what's going on in committee, to stop what's going on in the House.
And it's happened before?
It has happened before. And the exact same thing happens when Parliament is prorogued. Everything stops. The bills stop. The stuff in committee all stops. The only difference is we don't go to election.
Gokodani with a $5 super chat. Windows 11 has an enterprise server option, free to you. Let me know when you need to migrate. Perks of being an IT pro. Thank you very much for that, Gokodani. Carolyn Grennan with a question. Did you guys see Trudeau's press conference where the reporter asked him why he's still there? So I guess my question to you, Carolyn, is did you see our video? Because we did a video on that. So.
We did, and it was delicious.
Go back and take a look.
We'll say that. I really applaud. I think her name was Laura for asking that question in that manner. It was amazing.
It was great. And for those of you, if you haven't seen our video on that, go take a look at that. And Paul Barnett, I wonder if Metro will be exempt from this legislation on the Code of Conduct. Well, it sounds like that they signed it, but we'll see what happens. Shibakobi, the government and NDP has the nerve to lecture us about food waste, and then they cling to supply management, which forces food waste. Right? And Campsite Z, has the Canadian Constitution Foundation found out what criminal entity is behind the Ontario mandatory blow device on every traffic stop, towing wars in criminals? I don't know about that one. So, I know what the issue was, is that every traffic stop in Ontario has to, or it comes with a mandatory blow. But
yeah, I think they're doing that for the full summer.
But I don't know,
yeah,
if there's any implications on it. So.
I think it's very suspicious that they're allowed to do that because, I mean, if you're going 10 over, it doesn't mean you're drunk. How are they able to connect those two things and then force you to do a breathalyzer?
Or if you're missing your sticker on your plate, same thing.
Well, they don't do plate stickers anymore, but yeah, it's something that we're aware of it because we live in Ontario, but Northern Perspective mainly focuses on the federal stuff.
Rabbit says with a $5 super chat, it's like they hit the flush handle on all the bills. Yeah, that's
a really good way to put it.
Yeah. Floody Boy, the Toronto St. Paul's by-election has been announced for June 24th. Do you think that's finally going to get flipped blue to Conservatives? So we took a look at the riding today, and it's close. The Liberals are still ahead, but it's as close as it's been. So there's still some time. It's all going to come down to that, how that campaign is run. But it's close.
Yeah, because the by-election campaigns have the same length of time as the the general election, where it's between 36 and 57 days, I believe, of campaigning.
So, anyway, probably going to wrap it up soon here with a few more. So, on the Megyn Kelly show, she stated that some of JT's team were on Barack Obama's team. This would explain the U.S. politics. Do you have any comments on this? I think if that is the case, assuming that is the case, it is completely hypocritical. I think we would all agree of Justin Trudeau, given the fact that all he does is accuse Pierre Poilievre of bringing American-style politics up here, which is all he does. Never mind bringing Hillary Clinton up to his convention, and I think they're trying to get her up again. So the only one who's bringing that up here is him. And I think the last thing that we need up here is American-style politics, which is literally us versus them. That's not great for Canada.
Here's a good question from Chicken Lady. It says, "Are you reading more letters tonight?" And the honest answer is that with everything that's been going on the last few days, it completely slipped our minds. So we do apologize to everyone who is hoping to hear their letter read tonight. We will make sure that we read some extra ones next Sunday.
And Rob says with a $10 super chat, we have something like this in Alberta too. It smacks of being found guilty on the roadside without your day in court. The process is the punishment. Yeah, I don't disagree. Due process is something that everyone is owed. And Andrew and T.O. With a 12-hour workday and 5 days a week, it's a house every 17 seconds. Okay, so that's what he found. What we found before. And Glenn Stewart, I work in Calgary, building houses from April to August. 95 built before we hit the deadline of second week of August. Wow, there you go. And Diane Sylvain. When will Diane Daly appear in committee? Who actually signed off on the GC strategy? Contact again, Mindone. Thanks. So I think what happened, based on the pieces that we put together, is Mindone agreed to GC strategies and that solution. That Mindone will have you believe that he didn't approve the vendor. He approved the method, which was getting a third-party contracting firm, which is GC Strategies, to go and grab a bunch of contractors and bring them in. I'm pretty sure the person who signed off on the contract was actually Cameron McDonald. As for Diane Daly, she was supposed to be in committee on Thursday, but was not. We don't know why. So she was supposed to be at committee. So I have a feeling it's going to be soon, unless something strange happens. What is that strange thing? I don't know, but she'll be summoned to Ogo, I'm sure, if the Conservatives and the Bloc can get the NDP to actually agree to bring her in, because we need to hear from her. And I think we'll do one more. Last one from Diane Sylvain. They need reasonable and probable grounds to ask for a breast sample unless they actually have, quote, advertised stop checks, end quote, unless they change. Yeah, and I think that's kind of what they've done in Ontario is that they've advertised that this is what's happening. So, but thank you very much for the point there. Peter G with a $5 super chat. Have a good night. Hope you have a good long weekend, you too. So thank you very much for that. So anyway, folks, I think we'll cut it there. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you're having a really, really solid long weekend. I'll take my pain medication, most of it, and hopefully we'll be back on our feet in maybe a week or so. We'll see what happens. But if everything happens the way we want it to happen, we're going to have some really good stuff for you folks over the next couple of weeks. This week in Parliament should be an interesting one. This is the mad dash until the end of the summer, and I think Trudeau is going to be fighting tooth and nail to try and get any type of points in the polls that he possibly can to keep his job.
And then the week after that, we're going to be heading to Ottawa at the end of the month, and hopefully we're trying to set up some interviews. We haven't had any confirmations yet, but we're still trying, and yeah, should be really cool.
Fingers crossed. We'll have some great content for you folks, but until then, thank you everybody very much for showing up, and Double check your subscription to the channel. We still have YouTube, their process automatically, taking people off of that. Double check your notifications if you're concerned about that. Only about 14% of all the subscribers have those turned on. And Goko down here with a $2 super chat. Wish me luck. Fishing season is open.
Good luck.
Luck won't be a factor, right, Donnie? It's all skill. It's all skill. But on that note, thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the comments.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.